Okay, with your consent, this is being recorded, so I hope everyone's okay with that. So a very warm welcome to this meeting of the Aberdeenshire Community Planning Partnership Board on the 4th of June. The meeting is being recorded and we are hybrid. Some of our colleagues are in room 2 in Woodhill House and others are online. So we do have sorry, messages popping up, just a wee bit distraction. So yes, the recording of the meeting, as I said, it's been recorded, so that will be available on media channels following the meeting. So please be aware of that recording. If you could use your microphones where possible, that would be really good. And if you could keep your cameras on when you are contributing, that would be good too, because that just helps everyone understand what the conversation is. So before we start the meeting proper, I would just like probably Finlay to just run through the sediment, please. We have apologies and substitutes today, Finlay.
We do indeed. So I've got apologies from Dr. Adam Coldwells, NHS Grampian and the Vice Chair of the CPP Board, Andrew Wright, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, Jacqueline Lynn, Sports Scotland, John Tomlinson, Aberdeenshire Integrated Joint Board, Kate Bond, Aberdeenshire Council, Kerry Morgan, Scottish Government, Lee Jolly, however I have Shona Campbell as the substitute, Aberdeenshire Health and Social Care Partnership, Nicola Graham, Skills Development Scotland, Paul Finch, however I have Claudia Sturrock as a substitute for Nestrans, and Susan Webb, however I have Professor Shantini as substitute there, and that is the apologies.
Thank you very much. And can I just offer an additional welcome to Shantini, and perhaps you'll be joining us a bit more regularly. I'm not sure what your arrangement is, and also to Claudia and Shona for substituting today as well. So thank you for that. I would like just to offer a word of thanks and acknowledgement to Kerry Morgan, our Scottish Government partnership rep. Kerry is involved in lots of other significant work on behalf of Scottish Government, and has indicated that she will not be continuing as our place director with Anne Aiken, but someone from the department will be appointed in due course to join Anne as place director for us here in Aberdeenshire. But I would like to thank Kerry for her participation and her support for the time that she has been with us, and wish her well in her continuing role with other work within the government, and also look forward to continuing to work with Anne and the other place director who joins Anne in due course. So I'd just like to make a note of that, please, Finlay, that we want to thank and acknowledge Kerry for her contributions while she's been attached to Aberdeenshire's Community Planning Partnership. It's been really helpful. Anne, thank you.
So thanks very much for that. Just to reassure, I think hopefully it shouldn't be too long before we get someone to take on the joint role, and I think I am, because the nature of this role is that it's a voluntary add-on to the day job, essentially. Yeah. I think it would be good for us if we had a continuation of two folk covering it. So I think that's the approach I'm keen to take. And we also have a support team as we can draw on as we need to. But thanks for that. And I know Kerry would have liked to have continued, but I think she was just finding that she just was struggling with the time to commit to it.
That's much appreciated. And I did write a wee note back to Kerry as well. So just to thank
you.
her for her support. So that's fine. Thank you very much. I'm also aware that some folks have got other business this afternoon, so we will need to get through the agenda as efficiently as we possibly can. So we'll move then to declaration of members' interests, please. If anyone has any declarations based on the agenda today, if you could indicate, and I'll bring you in. No declarations, that's fine, thank you very much. And I'd like you to consider the public sector equality duty, please, and consider and adopt the following resolution: that we have due regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, harassment and victimisation, that we advance equality of opportunity between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it, and foster good relations between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it. And where an integrated impact assessment is provided, to consider its contents and take those into account when reaching a decision. Can I have an agreement, please, that that resolution is adopted? See nodding heads, that's agreed. Thank you very much. I don't see any other indications. Thank you. We'll turn then to the minute of the board on the 5th of March 2025. That is here for approval. First of all, can I ask if it's a correct record, or are there any amendments that you would like to make? No indications, so I'll take it then that that is a correct record and we can approve those minutes. Do any members have any matters that they wish to raise which are not on the agenda today? No, that's fine. Thank you very much. So those are approved. It takes us then to item 4.1, the action sheet. And the action sheet starts on your pack on page 6 with the progress of outstanding action. So Sarah, would you like to make any comments on this paper, please? From your point of view, and then we'll ask.
Sorry, as it relates to the outstanding governance framework partner representation, the action that's on here from that's against my name, that governance framework's on the agenda for today, and so can be discussed. But we have built in the feedback that's been received throughout the consultation phase on the governance framework. So I'm quite comfortable with the progress that action's taken, and will hopefully be signed off or progressed later today on the agenda.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments, Amanda?
Chair,
the microphones will pick you up, don't they?
My paper. In relation to the first action, we have now done some of the engagement. We've been doing it through our strategic partnership meetings, so I will pull that together. I don't have it for this meeting, my apologies, but I will have it for the next one. We have started the work on the indicators, and our gap in performance subgroup, the focus of their next meeting, which is at start of June, is focusing on the indicators for tackling poverty and inequalities, and how they also fit in with the place plan. So both actions are continuing but not complete yet, Chair.
Sorry, Anne, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to avoid dogs barking in the background. Jason, do you have anything to add to the action against your name at the moment?
Just that it's so my details obviously provided to the Mind Your Mind campaign, and it'll be something that we'll pick up with the executive to just a comms piece right across the piece, including Mind Your Mind.
Okay, thank you very much. And the other actions that are listed here have been completed, so they won't appear on further agendas. So does anyone have any questions for any of the leads based on the outstanding actions? No, so those are noted then. Thank you very much, and thank you all to those of you who are taking those actions forward. That takes us then to item 5, which is a verbal update from the Chair of the executive, and I'm going to ask Mr. Simpson to speak to that at the moment, but clearly we have a new chair who is Jason, who will perhaps speak also, but Mr. Simpson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just a few items to run through from the executive. We received a place planning presentation from Anne Overton, one of Aberdeenshire Council's area managers. That was on the development of place across the council and highlighting a number of subgroups that have been formed to take that forward, looking at different work streams. So looking at governance, funding and resource, training and culture, community engagement, data and performance, and place toolkit. And those different areas have been aligned with area managers at this point in time to take those forward. The scope of those has been expanded beyond its initial remit to look at anticipated benefits for the council, communities and partners. The executive agreed to hold a workshop for the board and the executive members to explore the implications of endorsing place planning. So we'll look at what that means for partners and the wider CPP, which will be presented back to the board in December of this year, the findings of that. We'll have more discussion, I believe, under item 7 today on that, touching on the governance framework. Place Information and Delivery team presented their strategy for 2025 to 2030, which was endorsed by the executive. And we also looked at the draft governance framework that has been touched on by myself and by Sarah. So that, as I say, is item 7 on your agenda today and will be considered then. A couple of funding applications we looked at, looking at a consistent process for the administration of the fund, for which the board has responsibility. The documentation and process were approved in principle with some amendments and clarification required before the process goes live. So members will be advised of that in due course. The executive confirmed a virtual scoring team to assess funding applications received as well. We did have one funding application for ArcGIS story maps and licenses for that. So that was for £12,000 and was approved. That will help the creation of place plans, but hopefully assist in collation of data across partners as well to lead us to a more informed and evidence-based position. We looked at making Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire a living wage place. Scottish Enterprise colleagues took that to us. So that is on the agenda today at item 8. That was considered by the executive and the ask was to take it forward to the board. So it is there for discussion today. And I think just finally from me, I have been chair of the executive for the last 2 years. I have now stepped down as chair and Jason Carrigan to my left has been voted in as chair. Jason's superintendent, partnership and events for Police Scotland. So Jason will be taking things forward as the chair and I will remain, but as vice chair going forward. So Jason has my full support and the support of the executive going forward and hopefully can build on progress made to date. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for all the contribution that you have made through the executive, Mr. Simpson. It's really much appreciated. And I think we welcomed you in your absence previously, but I would like to welcome Jason Carrigan formally to the chair of the executive and look forward to working with you. Jason, we have had an initial conversation and I just think that we've got the opportunity now to perhaps reset and to look at things a bit differently and to try and take things forward in a different way. So that would be really, really helpful. So it's much appreciated. Jason, would you like to say anything at this point?
Yeah, very quickly, Chair. It would be remiss of me not to thank Rob for his kind words there. I took the chair of the exec from him, really willingly. He's clearly done 2 years of real sterling work. But again, exactly as you say, it's an opportunity now with a fresh set of eyes, a little bit naive as well, in a good way, for me to come in and try some new things as well. The one piece I've mentioned just quickly on the ArcGIS thing is that's one of the key programs that Police Scotland uses as well. So linked with Power BI and all the information that we hold around our communities. So that really is a good opportunity for us to hopefully layer up our understanding of our communities that we'll look to exploit fully. Item 7, obviously on the agenda, is the draft governance framework. So we've been working quite extensively around that in terms of trying to get a framework that helps us understand what, as a board, you want to see from the executive, and also how we hold that operational delivery to account as well, and make sure that our delivery in our communities is absolutely the best it can be in a partnership setting. So part of that is hopefully the workshop on the 20th of August at Woodhill as a combined hybrid meeting as well, which I think will be really good at providing that foundation of, you know, as a board, what you want to see from the executive, what our measures of success are, and also how we really celebrate and sell those successes as well. So really excited to take the chair. Again, I'll have a lot of stumbles along the way, but I've got Rob staying as vice chair will be really valuable for me. So yeah, just very much looking forward to it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And I know that everybody's under a great deal of pressure just now, so your time around this is really appreciated. So thank you for that. Okay, anybody, any questions for either Rob or Jason at this point, or any comments, observations, suggestions? We're happy to proceed and see what happens, but I think it is an opportunity for us all to move forward and perhaps reset some of the work that we've been doing. So thank you very much indeed for that. That takes us then to item 6, which is reducing poverty LOIP update, and the report has been attached. It's here for our consideration and comment. We're being asked to acknowledge the key achievements identified in relation to the delivery of the priority, reducing poverty, to comment on the progress with the health, equity and learning project, and to comment on the progress being made with the Scottish Government funded Cash First project, and provide comments on the draft A Fairer Aberdeenshire Child Poverty Action Report 2024-25. So I'd invite Amanda now, please, to introduce your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm primarily looking for comments today, and I've included a number of updates for consideration, focusing on a couple of key projects and our programmes of work. As usual, I've taken the opportunity to highlight some of the good stuff that has been happening since the last board, and in particular, I would draw attention to the Amplifying Youth Voice in Aberdeenshire work, which has been highlighted as a good practice by the Improvement Service. This has been developed through the Tackling Poverty Inequalities Strategic Partnership, so all the partners that sit at that table, and it reflects many of the UNCRC articles in practice, which is positive. I've also provided updates.
Could you speak up, please? The microphones aren't hearing you properly.
Oh, right.
People in line now.
Okay. Do you?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I've had that voice that can't. It's unusual that people don't hear me. I've also provided updates on the HELP project. That's led by colleagues in NHS Grampian, but supported by the partnership. We applied for the funding, and there has been some work done today already. We have the expert panel in place, and we have started the frontline staff participation, and you can see in the report some of the views that are coming forward, and I'm really keen to see the outcomes that come through that. We've got an ongoing Cash First partnership. We are one of 8 partnerships in Scotland, but at the end of year 1, and an update has been provided. Key focus of the partnership at the moment is the review of the Information and Advice Services framework. The current framework predates the pandemic, and the current sustained increase in the cost of living being experienced, that's locally and nationally. And as a rural area, we see a premium, so we know that day to day families are experiencing negativity around this. So we are seeing increasing numbers of referrals to both the welfare rights team and the community-based services, and these referrals are increasingly complex. So it's informing our thinking of what we need going forward. And we are currently still in the engagement piece and collecting quite a lot of data, but we will be consulting on the draft framework in the coming months, with the framework being considered by the Communities Committee in September. And finally attached is the draft annual report. It's here for your consideration. So it highlights some of the achievements over the year, but also it focuses, it identifies our focus for this current year. So continued financial inclusion, continuing to look at how we can support through the Cash First project and reduce some of those key costs such as housing, making employment work. That does relate to one of your papers later on in the agenda. We know that employment is one of those key elements that can support people out of poverty and stop them going into poverty. So good to see that paper later on in the agenda, and also continuing with that lived experience approach. So local experts coming in and supporting us with what we're trying to do, co-planning, co-designing, co-delivering. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Amanda, for that overview and for the comprehensive information in the report. Colleagues, do you have any comments, questions, observations you'd like to ask Amanda? Shantini, please. If you don't, is it okay to call you Shantini? Is that
Yes,
all right?
of
Yes.
course, yeah.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
should have
no,
asked
Shantini is-
before. So
No, no.
thank you, Professor.
Is absolutely fine. So thank you, and thanks, Amanda, for the report. So I guess the first thing I was going to say is just an observation, really. You know, so I think the report's really good, and I'm just mindful that stigma comes up a lot. When we're talking about child poverty, and also when we talk about food poverty, etc. So, and I'm also mindful of the work that we're doing with the alcohol and drug partnerships as well around stigma, on the back of the National Charter for Rights coming up as well. So clearly, I think there might be something about joining up around stigma, to look at how this might impact across, some of our policies. So it's just an observation really, and I guess maybe something that we probably need to pick up so that we can probably through our actions, if they're a bit more streamlined, we can tackle stigma at a number of levels that will probably be a bit more impactful. So that was the observation. And then the second one, I guess, just to say that the next Director of Public Health report, which we're working on at the moment, is going to focus on children as well. So I think it'll be, through our Child Health Commissioner and consultants in public health, etc., we'll come and have those conversations. So there's early opportunity to engage around that with the Children's Services Boards and so on.
Thank you very much indeed. Amanda, do you want to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think, Shantini, that piece around stigma is a really interesting observation, and absolutely, I think working together on that would be very positive. We also see through our young people's campaigning group, they've recently done a really good piece around stigma, and I think it's tackling whatever that stigma is about, whether it's alcohol or drugs, whether it's about poverty, whether it's about something else. It's kind of coming in at all of those different levels and removing that stigma in the kind of holistic way. So would be really keen to have those conversations about how we can tie together what we're doing.
I just wonder if that's something that the executive want to take away and maybe get, is there any data or any information? Lindsay is on the executive as well, so that would tie that in. But I just wonder if the board would be interested in hearing from and seeing the musical video that WIPOC, the Young People's Organising campaigning group, have produced, and they are peer experienced young people as well. So I just wonder if that's something. Happy to leave that with officers to consider how best that could be presented. But if there was something to come back to the board around stigma and, again, some examples or not, would the board be minded to ask the executive to consider if and how that could be presented back to us to raise awareness? Happy with that? Okay, so we can take that as an action, please, for the executive. And thank you very much. Glenn.
Thanks, Anne. Yes, building on that, the stigma approach in terms of the older demographic is very significant as well. At one point, in relation to pension credit, the amount of available pension credit that was not claimed was in excess of £1 billion a year. So I think that it's across the piece, but that older demographic as well. I mean, obviously that filters down in terms of what is available for the families and so forth. But that's a big obstacle. I know it's an old chestnut in terms of pension credit and stigma around that, and I'm sure it is getting better, but I'm pretty sure it's still out there. Certainly our advice services are working hard, I know, at outreach and accessibility and all the rest of it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I think it would be in the round, Glenn, if we got something back. Absolutely. Chief Exec, Jim, please.
Thanks. Amanda's a fair distance away from me, so I'll try to get the question on this one. I'm interested as ever in the question in terms of outcomes as much as activity here. And I think as the report sets out well and clearly do a lot of work which is about prevention and therefore to the extent of ensuring people don't come into poverty in the first place. But we've seen some of the trend that's set out, I think, in the report in terms of young people, where we're seeing sort of greater in-work poverty but improved otherwise. Question is always the one which is about, do we feel as though that we have got or do we know whether we've got a sustaining and kind of increasing level of poverty in Aberdeenshire and a correlation with our work in terms of prevention or reduction in gender? With the question behind that is about, is there any of our work that needs to change or adjust at all if we do have an increasing rate to be able to try to bring that back down as well? So looking at that overall trend in terms of outcome as much as the really good activity we have.
In terms of those outcomes, as you say, there's a lot of really good work going on. We can see numbers shifting and falling, but what we are seeing is, and when I'm alluding to it, we are seeing people's poverty not coming down. So we're plateauing, so we're probably getting people out, but people are coming in equally. So we need to look at that. I think we are very conscious of the fact that whilst we are seeing the numbers of children and young people in poverty, what we are seeing is an increase as we reduce that. We're seeing an increase in the children and young people in families where it is that in-work poverty. So I think that is why the outcomes around employability, and I don't know whether it's Martin or Matt that will be presented here, but I think that paper later this afternoon is a key one to help us, because we will only get those outcomes over the line, I think, when we shift our thinking and shift the wider thinking around the role of employment and supporting that through value and value rules and to educate at that rate. We are also seeing an interesting dynamic in older children. So we're seeing reductions in younger children because there's some really good national stuff happening that kind of helps around the very small children. But we are seeing a real sticky bit around those slightly older teenagers, so like 15 to 19, more of them. And I think that's also to do with in-work poverty. So those outcomes aren't improving.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, do you want to come back at all?
No, just really welcome that. I think that's really helpful sort of narrative in terms of the targeting that's needed in terms of those two population groups. I think sort of the preventions we know tend to be quite hard to actually prove and demonstrate, but where we do have an increase in incidents, I think sort of great activity into those areas would be welcome if we can just start to review and pivot some of our work in the way Amanda said, with that focusing, that would be really welcome.
And is that something you would bring back at some point, Amanda?
Yes, happy to bring that back through the regular updates, Chair.
That's fine, thank you. But if there are any actions that needs to be highlighted, then through the executive again, any actions, because partners I'm sure are experiencing some of these issues as well. So how do we land it? But it is all tied back to stigma, isn't it, as well? Because we know that we've got young people in our secondary education, for example, who are not taking up the opportunity for preschool meals, for example. So we've got a lot of people who are not accessing some of the services, and stigma. I can only speak from a very local perspective. Is perhaps something that that is deterring them. So, but I know that the cash first and the way that the cards and things are loaded then. But if there's anything else, Amanda, or any actions that you wish us to progress, then we'd be happy to hear from you.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other indications at this time. So we've got some actions there, Finlay, just to be noted, particularly around the stigma piece. And Amanda will advise if there are any other actions that need to be brought forward in due course, and further reports around that particular targeted demographic may well appear also. Okay, as I say, I don't see any other indications, but we can see from the report just the extent of the work that has been done and continues to be done, and the outcomes are very clear. So I really do wish to, on behalf of the board, thank you, Amanda and Annette and all the team for all the work that is going on, and I'm sure if any partners wish to hear directly from Amanda and Annette and the team from the strategic partnership, then they would be happy, I'm sure, to meet with your organisation and or any other partners who may well be interested in this agenda. So I'm sure that offer, I'm speaking on behalf of, but I'm sure that they would be happy to meet with you to actually raise awareness around this agenda. And we have, I don't think we have any additional comments to make on the action report. Amanda, I think it's very clear and it's acknowledged and appreciated. So thank you very much. So we can agree the recommendations on page 10, please. That's agreed. Thank you very much. I'm going to slightly swap round the numbers on the agenda. I'm going to take item 8 now, if that's all right, because I know that Matt has another appointment. So if we could take item 8, please, making Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire a living wage place action plan, which is attached, and it's here for discussion and or approval. So if we could actually take item 8 first. Apologies, Sarah, for jumping over your item, but I think we need to have some time to be able to discuss this particular matter. So thank you, Matt, and hand over to yourself.
Apologies, Chair, for any confusion. My colleague Martin Barry is joining for that item on the real living wage, so you don't need to jump over to it on my account, because
all right. So Martin will be here.
He will be here. I think
okay.
Finlay will call him in.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. My apologies. So we'll go back then, having said all of that, to item 7, and it's the delivering place-based community planning in Aberdeenshire revised community planning partnership governance framework. So we have the report here before us. We've been recommended to consider, comment and agree in principle the draft framework, which is Appendix 1. Agree and note the upcoming board and executive workshop may lead to further changes, and instruct officers to update the framework accordingly. And note the framework will be approved every 3 years. Minor changes will be updated automatically, and while significant changes will require consultation and board reapproval. So Sarah, would you like to introduce your report, please? And again, apologies for leaping about.
No, absolutely fine. And I think through the recommendations at 1.3, it summarises it pretty neatly. So we have been on a journey with the governance framework since around September, with a view to really clarifying exactly the direction that we're taking from a CPP perspective, particularly as it supports place, but also supports all of our activity and our work. So it's a comprehensive document which we have had through this board on a number of occasions, and has also appeared through the exec and has done a couple of rounds of engagement also. And so what we have before us is a draft, hopefully a final draft, acknowledging that workshop, which is going to take place in August, and invitations will be sent for that shortly. And there could be some evolution of some of the detail that sits within it at that stage, but this document won't be new to anybody around this discussion, at least it shouldn't be, and hopefully it's really reasonably straightforward. What I will say is that the engagement that we've done and those engagement exercises that we've undertaken, Finlay and I have taken an amount of time out to make sure that we can embed everything and all of the actions where there were specific requests and not just observations have been absorbed into the final version of the document. So we're really grateful for all the feedback that we received actually throughout the process. And hopefully what we have in front of us is a reasonably final draft for consideration. It also picked up some of that finance discussion and that financial process and journey, which was referenced and discussed at the exec. And all of those changes accordingly are absorbed into this document as well.
Thank you very much indeed. And again, thanks for all the work that's gone into producing this document. So thank you. Colleagues, I'll open it up now for any comments, any questions. See no indications. Oh, Matt, please.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I guess some of this may be for discussion at the workshop in August, but I think from Scottish Enterprise's point of view, we just want to flag that I'm not sure that we'd be able to commit to what's asked of us in this governance framework. So some of the commitments around being involved in each of the local partnership plans and each of the local community planning groups, probably not feasible from Scottish Enterprise's perspective in terms of the way that we're structured and resourced, and also where our priorities are. So I think it may be some of that is around language, and maybe some softening of the language in the governance framework that could accommodate that. So it may be that you're happy to kind of push that back for a discussion in more depth at the workshop in August, but certainly as it stands, we wouldn't be able to sign up to some of the commitments that are asked of us in this document.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, do you want to respond?
I'd be happy to pick that conversation up at the workshop in August, and then hopefully if there's some minor amendments that we can put into it which allow you to see yourselves reflected. We did get, as I mentioned before, we got quite a significant amount of feedback in the consultation thus far. We can, as the recommendations state, make those changes, minor ones, while we're going through that workshop process. So if you were able to commit to being in attendance, hopefully if the dates work, of course, we can potentially pick up a minor amendment and then maybe send a version with the minor amendment through to the chair and vice chair of the board and the exec, just to get eyes on it to save coming back through this process again. That might be a useful intervention.
Would that
work for me? Yeah.
Fit the bill, Matt? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thanks,
we could certainly formalise a bit more the minor amendments and just delegate that to officers and in consultation with myself and the vice chair, and do it that way, Sarah, to stop anything having to come back unnecessarily. Happy
with that, and therefore happy that unless there was significant changes to this document, you will see it officially through its formal capacity following another round of engagement in 3 years. I think that would be helpful, I think, or by exception if things are not going particularly well. So Matt, are you content that that'll be picked up during the workshop and reflected? If we can reach an agreement on the wording.
Very much so, Chair. And I don't think it's a major issue. I think hopefully with a very minor change to the wording, it would be easy for us to sign up to. Okay, so we can leave that with Sarah and yourself and workshop conversation. And if we can just get the recommendation to reflect that delegation, Sarah, which anything significant clearly would come back, but I think we just need to do that. Does anyone else Absolutely. Have any concerns, any questions? Are we content then with what's before us? Clearly there's a workshop in August, and further discussions will be had then, but
go back to the recommendations on page 53. With those slight amendments, can we agree those recommendations, please? Those are agreed. And again, I'd just like to thank you, Sarah, for leading that the work and for bringing this forward in the way that you have. It's really helpful. And as I say, we look forward to the workshop.
Thank you, but I would like to extend that thanks to Finlay, who's done a significant amount of work on this since September. So I think he should be recognised.
Yes, and the thanks would be directed to you too, Finlay. So my apologies for that oversight, but it's I presume there's a small team around it. So thank you for that. Okay, then now we do go to item 8, which is making Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire a living wage place action plan. And we'll just pause for a second just to make sure that Martin's with us.
I'm just messaging just now. Apologies for we're ahead of schedule.
We're a bit early. Yeah. Everyone's content with the content of the paper, so.
And as previously indicated, I'm going to have to dip out now. Okay, apologies.
No, thank you very much for coming and your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just waiting for the presenter of the next paper to join us, and we'll be back with you in a moment. How are we doing, Finlay?
I've just emailed. We don't unfortunately have instant message, so I've just emailed, so you should be coming in soon.
That's okay. In the meantime, I think we could note item 9, which is the date of the next meeting, which is the 17th of September, from 2 o'clock. So again, that will be a hybrid option. So if we can note that as the next meeting, that would be helpful. Thank you, Matt.
Jason, would you be able to give your update for the workshop on the 20th of August?
Such as it is,
yeah, just the purpose.
The invite. So again, I've sort of covered it in my.
Okay, folks. That's good afternoon, Martin. Apologies for chasing you. We're running slightly ahead of time. So thank you very much for being available to come and speak to the paper. The introduction has been made and we're being asked to endorse the action plan and agree to support the delivery and promotion of the action plan via the Community Planning Partnership communication channels. So if I can just ask you if you're okay to go with it and to introduce the report, please, and then we'll take any questions and comments. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the time on the agenda this afternoon. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Martin Barry, and I work alongside Matt within the Scottish Enterprise team in the Aberdeen office, and I'm also, for the purposes of today, speaking as co-chair of the Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire Real Living Wage Action Group. And as Councillor Stirling said, I'm here to present the regional action plan, but I think it's worth emphasising before I start that this is the real living wage that we're talking about today, and not the kind of UK government national living wage, which is the government statutory minimum. So it's worth just being clear on that. So as you'll see in the paper, I've led a living wage project in the city for a few years now. We're in the 3rd year of an action plan, and it's always been our ambition to extend that into Aberdeenshire. The Living Wage Places scheme that's run by Living Wage Scotland requires the relevant local authority to be an accredited living wage employer in order to join that. And Aberdeenshire Council did that in October 2023. So, whilst we've always looked to support employers in Aberdeenshire where we can, this plan now kind of looks to formalise that. And I think it's important given the kind of two-way flows of workers into both the city and Aberdeenshire. So why are we doing this? What are the benefits to Aberdeenshire? Obviously, its main aim is to reduce in-work poverty. I don't really need to tell you the stats, but obviously 1 in 5 children across the region are living in poverty, and I think up to 2/3 of those children are actually living in a household where at least one adult is in employment. So that kind of highlights the impact of low pay. So, if work, isn't a route out of poverty, then what is? But I think the real living wage is a key tool in helping to reduce poverty. And you'll see some of the quotes in the action plan on how it's helped individuals, out with their finances. But I think it obviously can help the Community Planning Partnership achieve its LOIP objectives. As I've said, helping tackle poverty and inequalities, and we're actually looking to strengthen links with the Poverty and Inequalities Group and have a chat, I think, next week with Amanda Rowe on how we do that. And this plan also takes into account the findings of the work the Poverty Alliance did earlier this year into tackling rural poverty. And obviously with strong links with them, the Poverty Alliance, with them being the parent organisation of Living Wage Scotland. I think it can also support the place plans moving forward, especially those areas where low pay and poverty are a particular issue. For example, around about Peterhead and Fraserburgh. I think in terms of health and well-being, clearly there's benefits to mental health and reduction in stress if people are receiving a decent wage. And I think maybe just in terms of the kind of regional aspect, a key point is the regional economic strategy has an objective, a specific objective, where 95% of all employment should be paid real living wage or higher. So this will be a key mechanism in supporting that. And as I said before, there's obviously that large travel to work area, and engagement with employers around the region can benefit the other council or community planning partnership area. I think, as I said earlier, also there's an action group to deliver this plan. We've recently taken on some Aberdeenshire reps from Aberdeenshire Council, from Aberdeenshire Voluntary Action. The Cairngorms National Park Authority are also represented, but we're looking to bolster that, particularly with more third and private sector employers going forward. And it also would be good to have some political representation on that group as well from Aberdeenshire, I think. So any assistance on that would also be appreciated. Other members of the group should say that NHS Grampian and ourselves, Scottish Enterprise, through myself, are among the others on the group. But I think, I think something else this project brings, it is kind of true partnership working, and I think it kind of fits the ethos of community planning really well, and bringing the public, private and third sectors together to improve quality of life and to tackle poverty. Most of the members, membership organisations around this table today are accredited employers, I'm pleased to say. So I think it would be beneficial moving forwards to have the endorsement of the Community Planning Partnership for this action plan. I will also be taking this to the Board of Community Planning Aberdeen in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll be looking to launch this formally come the end of the month. But that's it, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you very much indeed. I invite colleagues to come forward with any questions or queries that you have. Yes, Anne.
More of a comment than a question, I guess. I thought this was really good. I really liked the plan for a number of reasons. Partly that I just think it's got a really good evidence base around the data and the drivers behind it, and obviously some nice clear targets around that. And I guess that recognition that of the importance not just of income levels but of income security, I thought was a really important aspect to that. And the fact that, you know, this is an Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire working together on this, given the geography and the setup, probably seems to make a lot of sense. And as Martin, as you said, there's a good range of parties involved as well, which I think is very positive as well. So I really just wanted to say that I thought it was a really good piece of work, and I think it's part of that work to understand and focus on areas of rural poverty, which sometimes when you look at the overall figures for particularly for Aberdeenshire, can make it look as if it's a fairly affluent area, which in some areas it is, but it does have those pockets of quite significant poverty too. So I think that I think it's a really good piece of work, and yeah.
Thank you. Maybe just Chair, if I may, just point out as well. I see Dan on the call as well. That obviously the living hours scheme will also be a focus for this action plan. Eva are, I think, we're the first living hours accredited employer in the Northeast. I think we'll go Dan. So obviously that's key. It's that, yes, payment of living wage, but also that security of hours as well is very important, as you say, Anne. Yeah.
That's really very helpful. Thank you very much indeed, and well done, Dan. And I'll bring you in momentarily, but Chief Exec, Jim, please.
Thank you. I had a question and then a suggestion from me. The question back to Amanda, to our early conversation, is about whether our involvement and engagement in this work would be a positive part of our tackling poverty sorts of framework, as we touched on before. So would it add to the preventative aspects of that and or reduce in the way we spoke about from certain target groups? If so, I'll be supportive. If we do endorse and support, then looking at the action group thus far, it's clearly got a genesis coming from Aberdeen City. And I wonder whether the action group needs to have refresh it. Therefore, if it's going to be Grampian wide and be regionalist basis, we need to have more membership representation engagement from businesses and partners across Aberdeenshire, so it is actually reflective and can reach those parties and doesn't remain an Aberdeen City centric action group, which it currently is, for the right reasons. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jim. And we're very keen to expand the membership and obviously get a more representative balance between the city and the Shire. As I said, we've looked to take on. We've had obviously the council and Eva on the group. Obviously, so the Cairngorms National Park is an element of that as well. But certainly, I've had a chat with Dan previously on how we can maybe get the third sector more engaged, actual third sector employers, but particularly the private sector, because that's where the employers themselves can go out and speak to other employers. It's one thing for me as a public officer going out and promoting it, that's one thing, but the real benefits and the accreditation levels can go up when it's that peer discussions, and that's really important, Jim. So, quite happy to work with your officers and others in the region on that.
Can I maybe come to the question of Amanda?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yes, we do see employability and increasing wages within Aberdeenshire is quite key. Our action plan in terms of this reducing poverty, LOIP does have employability and actions around supporting real living wage and supporting our employers come around the table on that. So I think this would help in that. So I would be looking at how we can perhaps ensure there's collaboration there, how we maybe report to get the best out of it. But certainly it would be helpful, as you suggest, Jim, if it's endorsed, it would be great to see that slight refresh on that membership. Perhaps have, I would be happy to be part of it through Tackling Poverty with one of our partners. Angie is there. Angie is key in our employability partnership. So she's that link for us anyway. But yeah, I would see this being something we could support.
Jim, do you want to come back, Jim?
Not happy with that, Chair. Thank you.
Any others? I've got Dan, sorry, yep.
Thanks very much, Chair. Martin, it's good to see you again, and thanks for the name check. I can't take credit for being the first. There was a builder in Stonehaven that beat us by about a week. So obviously, with Ava being a real living wage employer and a real living hours employer, it goes without saying that we absolutely support the direction of this, and I'll happily endorse the action plan. I suppose just a couple of observations though from third sector perspective. So I noticed in the report there's 95 organisations already accredited across the Shire. Ava's got a membership of just over 300, and I think nearly half of those claim to pay the real living wage. So I suppose there's a bit of a question there around what's stopping some of those organisations biting the bullet and actually becoming accredited. So is it the longer term commitment to paying an unknown annual rise, and then the knock-on effect of if some people are having that unknown annual rise every year, then the differential between responsibility levels, for example, becomes narrower, and then there's knock-on of having to pay more and more for people higher up the salary scale. So that's maybe a barrier that we need to get around, and it's not insurmountable, but I think there's something we need to think about there. And then I suppose thinking about, I guess, the third sector's perspective, and this isn't only the third sector, but I think it hits harder in the third sector when things like the national insurance contribution rise comes in, and there's absolutely no support for the third sector to cover that. We can't spend £1 more than once. So the decision needs to be made as to, do we put money into real living wage? Do we put money into the accreditation process? Do we put money into delivering services? And I guess some of the responses we've had recently when we've asked that similar question have been, well, services will become the priority. And whilst third sector organisations, by their very nature, believe that people should be treated fairly and with respect and paid for what they deliver and their expertise and knowledge, the reality is it doesn't always happen. So I suppose, back to the first comment I made, I fully endorse the plan. I think it's a great direction of travel. There are some really sticky issues that we need to figure out within the third sector, though. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I just answer that, Daniel. We obviously are very aware of the issues. I mean, Alistair obviously is on the group and he articulates those very eloquently. And you know, it's as we have aware, you know, there are huge cost issues facing all employers across all sectors at the moment, and it's something we have to be absolutely cognizant of. But it is an issue that we are aware of. But obviously, we'll continue to work with all partners, you know, and obviously trying to ensure that we can help tackle those, I guess.
Yeah, thank you all very much indeed. I don't see any other indications at this point. Just really trying to think this through, Martin. I think from what I hear or have heard from those who have spoken, I think there's an in-principle endorsement of the action plan and an in-principle agreement to support the delivery and promotion of the action plan as is set out at 1.2.2. But I wonder, as a third recommendation, could we refer this to the executive, the Community Plan and Partnership Executive, just to consider how this would move forward and the practicalities and the mechanics of it, and perhaps you would agree to be engaged with conversations around that. Jason Carrigan is the chair of the executive of our board, and clearly all partners are represented around that table. So I think that might be the best place to put it at this point. I know that Matthew has to leave us at the moment, so thank you very much for coming along today, Matthew. But in the meantime, Martin, would you be content just to have that further discussion with our executive?
Yep, absolutely. Yes, can do that.
And then some of the questions around whether or not political representation is required, some of the practicalities that you know, Jim brought up, and how the strategic partnership for tackling poverty and inequalities link in. I think Amanda, you missed Amanda's presentation to her report, but actually she talked very much along similar lines to yourself about that preventative piece and how we support in-work families who are experiencing that poverty. So that fits very well with that too. So would members be minded to refer that to the executive just to look at the how and the practicalities around that? And if we could agree to endorse in principle the action plan and agree in principle to support, etc., that would certainly, I think, give you an indication, Martin, and we'd look forward to you having further discussions with officers and representatives from all the partners round the table. And I'm sure, I don't want to again put words in your mouth on, but I'm sure you'd be on hand if there was any matters that you might be able to support as well going forward, if that's appropriate. So would members be minded to support that approach? I don't see anybody saying no. So with that, Martin, thank you very, very much for your report. Again, a lot of work going on, and I look forward to getting feedback from further discussions around this agenda. So thank you very much indeed, Martin.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Right.
Thank you. So with that, colleagues, we have noted the date of the next meeting. We have no other business on our agenda today. So I will conclude the meeting at this point, and thank you all very much indeed for your attendance and for your contributions. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the workshop, hopefully. Finlay, please.
Yeah, sorry, Anne, it's just to let you know the CPP board and executive workshop is due on the 20th of August between 3 and 5.
3 and 5.
3 and 5. I'll put a meeting invite out tomorrow morning.
Perfect. And then that's given folks good time, good notice. So thank you for that, Finlay. So with that then, thank you all very much indeed. And we shall see you anon. In the meantime, enjoy the summer.
Thank you.